In a new candid interview with The Hobbit director Peter Jackson and second unit director Andy Serkis, which can be found on the Blu-ray of The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, Jackson reveals that for much of the production of the films, he was just, quote, winging it. The director was working 21-hour days due to the fact that they had lost a year and a half of prep time and that scenes were being shot without being properly written to his satisfaction, without storyboards, and basically without a plan. Despite the fact that the Hobbit trilogy made nearly $3 billion worldwide. John, what was your take on this Peter Jackson interview?
First of all, really surprising and refreshing how candid it was. I mean, literally, it's minutes of Peter Jackson just saying, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, so the basic scenarios, look, for those of you who don't know, and most of you do, I know, but, you know, Guillermo del Toro for like almost 2 years was going to be the director of the Hobbit films. And then, you know, the schedules got worked out and he eventually had to leave because they couldn't start it on time. Peter Jackson jumped in. And he tells, if you haven't seen the video of him talking, he basically tells a story about how we were on set and I didn't have storyboards, didn't have planned out. We were just kind of winging, do this, maybe do that. And because it was like that, he was like working 21-hour days and all that kind of stuff. And you go from thinking, on one point of view, you could go from thinking, and I'm somebody who did like the Hobbit trilogy. I did. I liked the Hobbit trilogy, but it was such a step backwards from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And it's one of those films where even though I liked it, I would never debate somebody who said they didn't like it because I can totally see why they didn't like it, even though I enjoyed it myself. But when you're watching the Hobbit trilogy, and then you watch this interview, you go from thinking, wow, how did Peter Jackson mess this one up to how on earth did he pull this off at all? And, I'm reading a lot of commentators this morning about that whole thing. It's like, wow, Peter Jackson's really amazing that he was able to pull this off despite the fact that they didn't have the script where they wanted, all that kind of stuff. But what I haven't heard anybody ask, and I've got to bring up this question, while Guillermo del Toro was the director on the film for a year and a half, Peter Jackson was the producer and working with Guillermo del Toro. And in this video, Peter Jackson says, well, once Guillermo left, I had to start it all over again because I had a different vision for the movie. I had a different this and a different that, and they reworked the scripts and they had to totally and then you see set designers talking about we had to totally redesign all the sets. And the only question I come away with is why? Why? I understand a director has their own vision, but you were working with Guillermo del Toro on this. You were already a year and a half into it. Either you believed in it or you didn't. And if you did believe in it, granted, maybe it won't be your thumbprint on it, but for the good of the movie, you get it done. So I found it to be very fascinating. I love Peter Jackson's candor in it, but the big question that was left to me was, why did you start from scratch when you had a year and a half of work? You did it, okay, you only slept 3 hours a day, but you did it to yourself. This is the part that's bugging me right now. I know, Christian, you saw the interview. What stood out to you and what thoughts does it leave you with?
You shall not write. It is. It's like you said. It's very nice to see how candid he was too. It makes a lot of sense when you look at there was still that planning and probably the extra CGI because we were. Without spoiling, I've been looking at Lord of the Rings footage lately, right. And in looking at that Lord of the Rings footage, I was kind of shocked to find out there was very little use of CGI in that movie. Very little. It was mostly models, miniatures, all that stuff too. And I wonder if Peter Jackson had more time, if he would have used more of that stuff, because it clearly saved him a lot of time to over CGI it and put CGI orcs in instead of, because my one complaint has always been I thought that it was so much more effective to have people dressed as orcs and like those, right. But the reason why he did that and put them in there is maybe to save himself some time. In regards to your question, which I think is a great question with Del Toro, and it's what we've heard from Del Toro is Del Toro has a very specific style visions that he likes. We also don't know, and we've also heard many times where leaving because of schedule. Also could have had a conversation with Peter Jackson. This looks significantly different. Your version of the Hobbit movies looks so much different from what we're tying in here to Lord of the Rings. It's not working out. Maybe that was part of it. We don't know. I mean, it could have been in those conversations. It could have. And then
he left the Hobbit, and then he immediately started Pacific Rim, did he
not?
Yeah. So I always bought, even though you're absolutely right. Whenever you hear due to scheduling conflicts, but I always, my impression, but maybe you're right, my impression of it has always been this is one of those legitimate times because he was sitting and waiting to start shooting The Hobbit, and then he just couldn't wait anymore. It's either that or lose Pacific Rim.
But it was also, but
it's
listen,
The Hobbit versus
that's
Pacific
right.
Rim.
Listen, I mean, that's
But that was his
It was
project,
it was his baby, but it's also this is the at the time the prequel to Lord of the Rings, which is one of the most beloved trilogies of all time, and everyone was doing Hobbit movies, and Del Toro's doing it. Del Toro, something must have happened. I think. I mean, this is just speculation, but I think something must have happened to where the style of what a Del Toro movie is a Del Toro movie, and you see it no matter. And I think that it just needed to be a Hobbit movie, so maybe that's why. And then Jackson wanted to restart it all over again and had to start from scratch. So I understand how that happened, but I do think it's very refreshing, and makes a lot of sense that he made these comments.
I think I know I'm in a minority here that I watched The Strain on FX. I know a lot of people don't watch that.
I watched season 1.
Did you watch season 1?
Yeah, I did mind season 1 actually.
Yeah. I've watched all the episodes. It's okay, but it does have that very Del Toro effect. Like, it is a very singular show, and when you're doing a movie like The Hobbit, because I really liked the first one. After that, I felt like it went off, which sounds like just exhaustion of the movie. And the first one, like The Lord of the Rings, is a lot of walking and a lot of just like singular characters. When you start adding in all of the war stuff and the choreographing and the writing and the doing of all those scenes, if you're not 100% in it and you don't have a plan going into it, you're gonna fail. Like it's like any wartime kind of a thing.
But it didn't really, necessarily. The movie didn't fail though. I mean, as far as box office,
$3 billion.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You mean
But to us
more
who,
about
like,
right.
right.
It didn't hold up to Lord of the Rings.
Right. Exactly. And it could have and should have.
Right.
Even though it's one book, that book, The Hobbit, is way more popular in terms of people who have read them than the Lord of the Rings books. Because you read it in school. A lot of school kids read The Hobbit. And that was one of those books where I was like, oh, they're making Hobbit movies. This is going to be incredible. I watched the first one. I was like, okay.
so excited.
So excited.
So excited.
And then,
Should have been 2 movies.
it should have been 2
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
And because the third one, it really did feel improv.
But now we know why.
Yeah.
After watching this, because in this video, I was talking about, look, they were trying to film the big battle of the 5 armies, right? And they've got Andy Serkis, who was the second unit director. And Andy Serkis is saying, yeah, we had no idea what the battle was, so we were just shooting battle scenes, having no idea what was going on.
And you can tell it looked like that.
And it did look like
Yeah.
that. And then Peter Jackson just basically said, you know what? This is going to be a total mess unless we just take a break. And that, all we are left to now deduce is that is what led to the decision. Well, then let's make it 3 movies and give you that extra time, which is a terrible reason to have it break that series into 3 movies instead of 2. But, very insightful, very cool to hear a lot of this stuff. So it was a good interview. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's very revealing.
Hey guys, if you like this clip, click here to watch the entire episode. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because it'll help you stay up to date with all the stuff we've got going on here at Collider.